Yeah, good evening, everyone. For those that are trickling in, we'll be starting here in just a couple of minutes. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Mm. All right. I've got 7 o'clock on my clock here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And if people join in later, we'll be able to pick up. So, good evening. My name is Matt Dallin. I am the program manager for the Office of Resilience Planning within Virginia's Department of Conservation and Recreation. Just wanted to put out a couple of housekeeping notes. We are recording this session so that we can post this. We'll also be posting the slides on our website as well. I just wanted to first thank you all for attending this public webinar so that you can learn more about the Virginia Flood Protection Master Plan. So if we can go ahead to the next slide. All right. So this evening's presentation, I think, should be around 35 minutes with some time for some questions at the end as well. There's also going to be some opportunities to provide feedback through a Mentimeter. So if you do have your phone handy, you'll be able to use your phone. You could also use your computer. If you're attending this on your phone, that might be a little bit trickier, but try to make do if you can. So we're going to go ahead and get provide some more introductions to our planning team. We'll provide an overview of the plan itself and the planning process, what we're trying to achieve, where we're at in this planning process that's currently underway, and provide some more opportunities for public engagement and involvement in this planning process. What we're hoping that you walk out of this meeting with is you'll know more about the state's statewide Virginia Flood Protection Master Plan, and that we also would encourage you all to take a public feedback survey that we'll have a link for at the end of this presentation. We're also going to be posting that link on our website and then having some social media posts, and I also encourage others to take this survey and again provide feedback on this planning effort that we're working on. So go ahead to the next slide. So a little bit about DCR's Office of Resilience Planning before we get into the plan itself. Our tagline is that we're planning for a flood resilient future. What our office does within the Department of Conservation is really try to coordinate action and distribute knowledge and really be a conduit of knowledge, not always putting information out, but also collecting and distributing, trying to share some lessons learned across the Commonwealth so that we've got more people working together towards a common goal. And that really gets to why we do this. We think that, and we really know that aligned collective action together as a kind of solid team, we will increase resilience and minimize the impacts of flooding statewide. This is not something that one agency, individual, department can do on our own. We really need the whole community from the state, local, regional, NGOs, and individuals. There's all a part to play in helping build flood resilience in the Commonwealth. And our office is really here to try to help coordinate and share that information with support from our contractors and other stakeholders as well. So we'll go to the next slide. And just a little bit more about our office. So we're responsible for developing and implementing state-led flood resilience plans in Virginia. That includes this plan, the Virginia Flood Protection Master Plan, but also the Coastal Resilience Master Plan, which focused on the 8 coastal PDCs, which is in the final stages of development and should get released here shortly. Again, working on coordinating action, not only during the planning process, but there's also a public advisory committee. It's the Flood Resilience Advisory Committee that meets at least twice a year, that we receive input from a lot of state agency and other stakeholders. We also host an annual flood preparedness coordination meeting, again, trying to bring a lot of the different actors across state agencies, regional, local government, universities, NGOs, and a lot of different actors, including federal partners as well, to really share and make sure people are aware of what's going on and how it relates to their work, and find opportunities to connect and coordinate together. On that shared knowledge, we do try to put out a lot of information and resources for others to use, so that more time can be spent on planning and sometimes less on data development by providing some standardized statewide or regional data sets. Then we also are responsible for conducting outreach and engagement. Part of this meeting today is public outreach, but again, this plan is not, while DCR is responsible for it, it is not just DCR's plan. It is all the stakeholders' plan, and we need to engage with those stakeholders, get their feedback, as well as to make people aware of the activities that we're doing in the Commonwealth, so that they understand some of the resources and value that the state is putting towards flood resilience in the Commonwealth. So we'll go into the next slide, and I'm going to hand it over to our lead contractor for the Virginia Flood Protection Master Plan, which is Arcadis, and their team of subcontractors. We've got John Millspaugh, who's our project manager for this. I'll hand it over to John to provide a little bit more about his team, and then we'll get into the plan itself.
Yeah, thanks, Matt, and good evening, everyone. Thank you, as Matt said, for joining us for this webinar. Our team is honored to have the privilege to work with DCR on this critical plan. As Matt said, my name is John Millspaugh. I'm the Arcadis project manager for this project, but I'm supported by a talented, hardworking team supporting the development of this plan. So along with Arcadis, our plan team includes Emergent Method, Launch Consulting, Hirschman Water and Environment, and the Water Institute. Go to the next slide. So the purpose of the Virginia Flood Protection Master Plan is to provide an actionable plan for the Commonwealth to use in crafting policies and programs to mitigate the impacts of flooding on people, the economy, and the environment. If you go to the next slide, the result of the plan development process will be various products to communicate the plan and support the plan's implementation. The final products are anticipated to include a Virginia Flood Protection Master Plan website, a report and brief, a data viewer with interactive engagement, and a plan status webpage that will be periodically updated with progress. For the next part of our webinar, I'm going to hand things over to my colleague, Kiesler.
Hey, everyone. Thanks, John, and thanks, everyone, for being on this evening. Like John said, we're really excited and honored to be supporting DCR in this effort. My name is Kiesler Morrison. I am part of the team helping with the engagement and the outreach. So this particular webinar is really exciting for me, especially on the engagement side. So really happy to have you all here. So I'm going to cover some of the background information about the plan and help set a little bit of the context for you all to give you a little bit more information. The slide you see in front of you here shows kind of the big picture of the VFPMP, the plan. So while the actual plan is to be reassessed and the actions identified in it are to be updated every 5 years, the big picture that you see on the left side here, the vision and the goals and the objectives, were developed really intentionally to be longer term. So while what we do on the right side, you see the strategies and the implementation roadmap, they might change and evolve over the next several years. What we hope to accomplish in the vision and the goals and the objectives are going to remain the same. And so all these big picture items on the left side have been established as part of the planning process that we've been working on for the last several months. We'll go over them in detail in just a minute. And the strategies and actions on the right side are what we're developing right now and kind of what we want to get your input on today. So the timing of having the public be involved at this juncture is really strategic. You can go to the next slide. So with that, I'll get into that process that I was talking about that we've undertaken to develop this plan. To get to this final product, this actionable plan that we're talking about, a lot of work, data collection, context setting needs to be done. And a key part of that is met with and really enhanced through engagements and collaborations with people who are going to be executing the actual actions within this plan. So as the colors on the slide indicate, the first 3 phases have been complete. And we're currently working on that 4th one, and I'll briefly go into them one by one. We're also going to go through them in more detail later in the presentation, so have no fear. But we started back in September with the 2024 annual flood preparedness coordination meeting. And that was kind of our stage setting phase where we set the foundation for the plan's direction, got some initial ideas from our stakeholder groups. And in that second phase, we developed the plan's vision, goals, and objectives, building a clear picture of those big picture long-term themes that I talked about in the last slide. And what we want to accomplish through this plan. The third phase, we reviewed kind of the current state of the flood resilience in Virginia across the state government and what it looks like. And from there, we identify gaps that need to be addressed and have prioritized those gaps to address through our actions in the future. This 4th phase in the blue is what we're currently working on, and kind of the phase that we're in the middle of right now. This one's fresh on our minds as we had a workshop on this last week in Richmond. But we're identifying specific strategies and actions that Virginia can implement over the next 5 years to really actionably enhance flood resilience and address these gaps. Our next phase from there, we'll develop an implementation guide that will make this a really, really actionable plan. So identify who is responsible for what exactly needs to be done, what resources are going to be required to accomplish these things. And so that's our process. And you may be wondering kind of where does the public fit into all this? And so I'll move to the next slide that kind of outlines who our stakeholders are and how they're incorporated into this. So on the left side, you can see that the scale of this plan is statewide, and ultimately the state government is going to be the one responsible for implementing it. But as Matt said, this is everyone's plan. It's designed to inform and support existing regional plans and to help inform future ones as well. And so we want this plan to create alignment between state and local governments, and so that we're all on the same page when it comes to flood resilience. On the right side, you can kind of see the breakdown of our stakeholders. In the middle, we have our planning team supporting DCR's Office of Resilience Planning, as well as the Flood Committee. Just outside of that, we have our core stakeholders. So this includes members of state agencies whose roles may be directly involved with flood resilience. They attend our in-person workshops and work sessions. And then right outside of that, you have our supporting stakeholders. So these are going to be our local partners, some other state agencies who may be indirectly involved with some of the plan implementation. And then right outside of that, we have the general public. Like I said, at this juncture of the planning process, we want to involve the public to get feedback on where we are and where we should go. Because at the end of the day, this is everyone's plan. Everyone across the Commonwealth can be impacted by flooding. And we want the more voices to be heard, the better. And the more we can kind of consider that as we move into implementation. So we'll have some opportunities during this call to provide feedback, but I do want to take a second to really encourage you after this call is over to take that survey, because that's where we're really going to get a lot of the feedback from the general public and kind of why we want to bring you all along so that we can meaningfully implement some of your feedback into this plan. So yeah, next slide here, you can kind of see I went through this in a little bit less detail, but here you can see kind of on the calendar on our timeline where we are. So we started in September, like I mentioned, and have had 4 in-person sessions since then, several virtual feedback sessions, conducted several interviews with individuals across state agencies. And then obviously you can see the We Are Here arrow there that has the public webinar, which we're really, really excited as a key milestone to tonight to get this accomplished. So with that, I hope that gives you a decent little overview of kind of what we're doing and where we are. And I promise you we'll get into the details of what I mentioned throughout this presentation. But in the meantime, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Brooks to kind of go through the Minty activity and what that's going to look like.
Thanks, Keesler. My name is Brooks Belanger, also part of the plan development team. Tonight, we're really excited to get your feedback live in a real-time manner through our Mentimeter Minty platform. So 3 ways to join, all on the screen right here. First, probably easiest way is the QR code. If you have your phone out, you can scan that pretty easily. If not, Minty.com with the code 66203417. And then I think Keesler is going to drop the link in the chat as well, if that's the easiest way for you. So we'll take a couple of moments and everybody jump on that and we'll head to the next question. And I'll also ask that once you get logged in, if you could keep that up for the remainder of the presentation, we are going to use it several times. It'll make it easy to get back and forth. So on our first question, what is your greatest priority to advance flood resilience in the Commonwealth? So you can enter any kind of word or phrase here and let us know what it is that you think is most important to implement, and our responses should pop up on the screen. So excited to see what you have to say. Lots of answers coming in. Thank you all. Safety seems to be a pretty good theme.
Climate change also a consideration. Data sets, you'll see that come up later in our kind of draft solutions. Green infrastructure is an awesome consideration. Affordability, funding is certainly related to that. Policy and sustainable solutions. Yeah, these are great. Awesome. Yep, economy is one of our considerations as well.
It's like safety and data are taking the winning spots right here in the middle.
Yeah, we'll give it a minute for kind of, there's a lot of people out there that maybe fumbling around with the Menti. Like we said, you can click on it in the chat or join, clicking on it in the chat is probably the easiest way to do it.
If anybody's having trouble joining, feel free to let us know in the chat or just drop your answer in the chat. We can get that reflected.
Yep, Kelly got you adaptation. Thanks for that.
All right. Thanks for all the responses. I think we see two pretty good ones right here in data and safety, and excited to talk about those moving forward.
Yeah, so I'll take it back from you, Brooks. And so I mentioned each of those plan phases a little bit earlier. And like I mentioned, we'll run through each of them in a little bit more detail and get some feedback as we go through each of them as well. So the first step that we really took was developing the VFP&P vision, the goals, and the objectives to set those long-term targets that I talked about for the plan. So the vision that we've established for the VFP&P is a thriving Commonwealth proactively addressing flood risks to further strengthen the resilience of communities, the economy, and the environment now and into the future. So I hope that a lot of you who just responded to that Menti poll see some of your answers reflected even in this vision statement. And I think that a lot of you will see your answers reflected in some of the draft strategies and the goals and objectives as well. So we can kind of move into those goals and objectives. So with that vision in mind, what we did is established three main goals that we want to accomplish through this plan. The first one, mitigate current and future flood risks statewide. The second one, advance lasting unified strategies to address flood risk. And then lastly, capture additional benefits through flood resilience. And so I'll get into a little bit more detail for each of these, just go through the objectives quickly to call out a little bit more specifically what accomplishing this goal looks like on a more practical basis. So first, to mitigate current and future flood risks statewide, we want to reduce negative effects on human health from flooding, reduce negative impacts to vulnerable populations from flooding, reduce flood damage to buildings and infrastructure, reduce economic disruptions and losses from flooding, and reduce negative effects to natural and cultural resources from flooding. So mitigate those current and future flood risks statewide. The next one, mitigating current and future flood risks, or excuse me, advancing lasting and unified strategies to address flood risks. We want to increase understanding of current and potential future flood risks, strengthen the ability to prepare for and manage flood risks, increase the adaptability and effectiveness of flood resilience strategies to potential future conditions and regional interests, increase the return on public investments in flood resilience, and increase the accessibility of flood resilience resources, opportunities, and information for all Virginians. Lastly, our goal here is to capture the additional benefits through flood resilience. Some of you mentioned this in your answers as well. So first, we want to improve health and quality of life through flood resilience, boost the economy through flood resilience, and enhance the natural environment through flood resilience. So with that information, and after having to listen to me speak for a few minutes, I hand it over to Brooks to keep this a little bit more interactive and have you guys rank the goals, which ones you think are most important to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Keesler. So back to our Minty question, same way you were logged in last time. I got the code still at the top here. If you want to jump back in that way. So which VFP goal is most important to you? So appreciate those of you who've jumped in already. It looks like mitigate current and future flood risk statewide is our leader right now. That's a big one, and it definitely ties back into the safety theme we heard about earlier. See a lot of consistency there. So keep those answers coming in and let us know what you think. I'll give it about another minute or so.
They are listed in no particular order of importance when we present them, but it does seem that if they were, that is the ranking that we're seeing come in.
Looks like a really strong preference on the mitigate current future flood risk statewide. Yeah, it's awesome.
Minimize risk most important.
Once again, feel free to drop your answers in the chat if that's easier as well. All right. We've stayed pretty steady here, so appreciate the participation, and we're going to jump into our next portion. So the next step was prioritize gaps to address. So I'm going to walk you a little bit through the process of identifying gaps. So first, what is a gap? A gap was a practice that was not effectively being implemented across or within state agencies, which limited the Commonwealth's ability to successfully execute flood resilience strategy statewide. So essentially, they're areas that the Commonwealth can improve to enhance flood resilience. So the first step was to collect all the existing resources that were out there that had to do with flood resilience and understand what the current landscape looks like, and then do an analysis to understand where the gaps were, and then take that information to our stakeholders, work with DCR, any other stakeholders to identify those gaps, get feedback through our virtual feedback sessions and our in-person workshops, and then finally synthesize all this information into a draft prioritization gaps list. So after we did that, some pretty clear themes arose. First one, funding and resource gaps. I think we heard about that a little bit on that first Minty slide as well. So limited resources for asset maintenance, insufficient funding long-term, and a big over-reliance on temporary federal funding. Then we had some data decision-making gaps, which looked like access to up-to-date data. We heard about that a lot as well on that first Minty slide. Robust decision-making framework, which is really helpful to help guide our state agencies as they make decisions. And then data sharing across departments to make sure we're efficiently using our resources. And then the staff capacity gaps. I think, as we all know, that the capacity for staff to accomplish things is often a big challenge. And I think we heard about that a little bit on the first Minty as well. So overall coordination between the different levels of government, support for grant applications and opportunities, especially for the local governments that might be a little bit more under-resourced. And then technical assistance goes along with that grant applications as well, and program initiatives. And then lastly, on this one, the integration and application of flood resilience tools that we do have into our work every day. And then our last theme that we saw was community capacity and engagement gaps. So our community knowledge and how much does the public understand our proactive steps to reduce our vulnerability, and then coordination among state agencies to streamline our resilience strategies and minimize redundancies. So these were the areas that our prioritized gaps ended up all falling into these buckets. Good way to look at them. So on to our next Minty question that I think a lot of you have already started on. We really appreciate that. Please rank the types of gaps in order of importance. So if you think the biggest problem is the lack of funding, then you'd rank that first. And it seems like everybody's got that going so far. So give you a couple of minutes to give us your thoughts here. And a little movement. Staying pretty steady with funding and data right at the top. And I think that's pretty consistent through all our Minties so far.
Gary, got your community capacity vote there. Thank you. Yeah, funding far and away, resource gaps. Obviously, that's a big concern, everywhere.
Absolutely.
And then up-to-date data, staff capacity, community capacity, all kind of second tier, all about the same, really.
Staff capacity moved up to second place.
Yep. We'll give it another minute or two. I know there's a lot of people on, so.
Like we said in the beginning, feel free to leave any questions in the chat, anything that you'd like to discuss further. We're monitoring that section pretty well. All right. Thanks for the engagement and the answers here. I think we have a pretty clear answer on funding. Really appreciate that. I'm going to turn it back over to Keesler.
All right, so identifying flood resilience strategies. This one's very fresh in our minds, as this is the one that we are currently working on. As I mentioned, we did have a full day work session in Richmond, I think 1 week ago today on this. So very much, you can go to the next slide. Very, very apt here. So you go. Yeah. So as you can see here, kind of an overview of our process. These are currently being developed. We started with a draft list that we refined, and then we brought that list of potential strategies to our large group of our supporting stakeholders during our initial virtual feedback session. And then last week, we kind of further refined them and brought them to a larger group at our in-person workshop. And we really got some very helpful feedback that we're using to currently inform the final strategies that are going to be in the plan. And so while we don't have these finalized at this time, we do have pretty well established 6 themes that I want to go through real quick that our strategies are going to fall into. And so if you want to go to the next slide, in no particular order, we have 6 of them, first starting with meaningful coordination. So this is both within and across organizations and agencies. So does everyone know their role, and how can they support each other or get support from other organizations? And this is both internal to state agencies and external. Kind of how are we leveraging all of our resources to be most effective? The second one here, enhanced capacity, and you've seen that a few times. Capacity is a very common theme, and there was some support for that in the last Minty question there. But this kind of sounds a lot of times like hire more people. And in some cases, that may be a necessity and that may be the solution, but it's also kind of how can we increase capabilities? How can we be more effective with what we currently have? How can we kind of optimize roles and increase knowledge and capability? Funding, obviously, that one kind of speaks for itself. Identifying funding opportunities that may be more sustainable into the future. So sustainable funding, that keyword there is obviously a big one that we'll have strategies around. Reliable data. This is crucial and something that we've heard a lot about from stakeholders. This is about having data that's accurate, that's consistently up to date, data that is effective, and data that is accessible. So something that we hear a lot is there's so much data out there. We don't know what to use. We don't know how to use it. And so making it applicable and accessible for people to be able to use. So that's going to be something that you see a lot of in our draft solutions as well. Proactive adaptation, kind of how are we working toward the future to be more prepared rather than reacting to what's happening? And then supporting localities. Like we said, this plan is for everyone. This plan is intended, obviously, to be implemented by state government, but to support localities. And so taking into consideration how these things can be implemented at a local level and thinking about how the state can continue to support that. So from these, we'll develop more specific actions in our implementation roadmap. We'll kind of bring this to life. So right now, we are in the identified flood resilience strategies phase of the plan. And with that, I will kind of hand it over to Brooks to talk about bring it home with our implementation guide.
Thanks, Keesler. So we'll talk a little bit about the implementation roadmap now, which teed up pretty well there. So the next step in the PMP development process is the implementation roadmap, which is going to be our action level portion of the plan. So the goal of the roadmap is to outline who's going to do what, when, how, and with what resources. So very much where the rubber meets the road. So this process is going to look like once we have our finalized strategies, we'll take those and develop details for implementation for each of them, and then take the details to our stakeholders through an in-person workshop and a virtual feedback session. They're going to be in June and July. And discuss how each agency will be involved in implementation, what resources they might need, who exactly would need to be involved, and how this aligns with all the other plans and programs that we have going on. So this phase is going to lead to clear guidelines for taking action and managing the implementation of the plan over the next 5 years, so from now until 2030. All right, so that's a lot about the plan, and now we're going to transition a little bit into how can you get involved, which I imagine is probably why a lot of you are here today, and so excited to talk to you about that. So the VFPMP public outreach campaign is what we're doing right now. It's a distinct focus of the plan. And this is probably the most significant public outreach event that we've done so far. So we're really excited that you're here and really appreciate you taking time out of your Tuesday evening to be here today. So ways you can get involved in the public outreach campaign. First, our in-person event participation, which got a slide on next. So we'll skip over that for now. Our planned data viewer, which John talked a little bit about earlier, is going to be a way to really get interactive with the plan, what the information come out of it and how it was developed. Public feedback survey, we're going to have another slide about and talk about in more detail a little bit later. And social media engagement. DCR is really active on social media. It keeps you totally abreast of everything going on with the plan through social media. So encourage you to get involved there. So our public events, we started off our first public event actually this past Saturday in Fredericksburg, celebrating Earth Day with the Fredericksburg area. Our next public event is in St. Paul, Virginia, with the Clinch River Days Festival on May 31st. And then our next definite public event is after that one is going to be the Go Outside Festival on October 17th. And we might add some engagement over summer and fall. So stay tuned there for social media and other ways. We'll get that word out on that. So this is an opportunity to come talk directly to some representatives from DCR about your thoughts on the plan. We have an in-person survey you could take and other ways to stay involved. So really encourage you, if you're in one of these areas, to go out to those festivals and engage with DCR. Additionally, if you have experienced flooding personally, the Flood Story web app is a resource that's available to you. We have a QR code on this screen, on this slide, so I'll leave this up for a second. But if you have ever experienced flooding and you're interested in sharing your story with DCR, you can scan this QR code right here, and it'll take you to a survey where you can share pictures and your story about what happened to you. So your story is going to contribute to a comprehensive repository that DCR uses to identify flood-prone areas and improve overall flood management in the future. So we'll leave this up for just a second if that applies to you and you're interested in sharing your story. And so lastly, the public survey is probably the best way for everybody to get involved right now. Public survey is open. The link to it is right here on this QR code. So I'd encourage you to take a second, scan this QR code, get the link. This is a survey. It'll take a couple minutes of your time to go through, and it runs through every element of the plan where you can get feedback on the state of flood resilience in Virginia, details on the plan, what's the best way to contact you, and what do you want to see out of final plan products. So please share this with your friends, your family, anyone who's interested in getting involved. We want this to go out to the whole Commonwealth. Anyone who cares about flood resilience is really our target audience for this. So really encourage you and really appreciate your time for your responses. So please picture this QR code, make sure you get the link and share it as much as possible. And this link is also going to be on the DCR website for the next couple of months. And the survey is going to be open until June 15th. All right.
And we'll also see about getting a link in the chat real quick to that survey. So if you just give me a second there, I see somebody asked for it.
So I'll flip it back over to Keith to wrap us up.
Yeah, feel free to stay on. If you, I'm going to provide the link in the comment in just a minute here. Please do answer the question about whether attending this webinar was valuable to you. It is helpful for our feedback. If you have nothing else, feel free to jump off. But I just want to take the time to say this is really exciting to kind of kick off our public portion of this plan and to interact with all of you, get some feedback. And really just want to emphasize taking that public survey. It's going to be really crucial to inform the plan. And we really appreciate your time, your focus, your effort. So thank you. And it looks like the survey did get in the chat. So we'll leave that open for a couple minutes if people want to take that as well.
Yeah, thank you everybody again for attending. You can check out our website as well, which has some more information on the plan. We've also got a page nested within there on, again, how you can get involved. This presentation, this slide deck, we're going to PDF it and post it on the DCR website, and it'll be on our Flood Protection Master Plan page as well. We are also recording this, and we'll have a link to this on DCR's YouTube page as well. So if you have more questions, want information, please feel free to reach out at the flood.resilience@dcr.virginia.gov email address, and we can get back to you and provide some more information if you're interested in that.
Thanks everyone again for your time and your feedback.
You know, the survey still is live, even if you get kicked out or leave the webinar.
Yes, it will be live through June, so you got time.
All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us on a Tuesday evening to learn more about the planning process. Please stay tuned to our website, sign up for our newsletter. We've got a quarterly newsletter from the Office of Resilience Planning where we provide updates on this plan, our Coastal Resilience Master Plan, and other efforts that our office is doing. Thank you again for your attendance and your support. Please get the message out there. Try to let people know Virginia does care and is working to build a more flood resilient Commonwealth to meet these flooding challenges that we have head on. And these really are statewide challenges that we're working to address. Kelly, you've got a question? I don't know if you can come off mute.
Yeah, Kelly, you can try to come off mute. You may just have to click accept the terms and conditions since there's a recording going on.
Or you can type your question in the chat too as well.
Oh, there it is.
Gotcha.
Hey, so we're getting fiber optic internet out here.
Nice.
Nice.
You know where I am
Yes.
on the Chuckatuck Creek, the Lower James, and Nansen River. So just a shout out to you because they're stringing it now on the poles. They're boring it into the ground, and we do have that central community hall. We really, truly are begging, please, for any consideration of another presentation. DCR was good enough to come out, present after phase one. We didn't have an opportunity because of some issues that, you know, for our volunteers that help us to set up. But either here over at Smithfield, they have a great convention center
You
over
cut out
there.
there, Kelly.
Yeah, we here or in Smithfield. Smithfield
Okay.
is kind of central in all of White County. We might capture some of those Surrey folks. This side of the Lower James just really, you know, we're ready for information. We're ready to jump in and throw, you know, shoulders back, get information out to those communities that are always a little bit harder to reach because they're not all broadbanded yet. So welcome, and that's pretty much it. That's me trying to mute myself. And thanks so
All right.
much for everything you do.
Right.
Big
Thank you,
champions
Kelly.
here.
Well, thank you for your support and helping build the awareness of what's going on and helping communicate what's going on in the local communities to the state. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Okay, muting.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I think we're going to go ahead and close the webinar and end this event. Again, it'll be posted, and thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Everyone.